pause there, chat. Sorry. Didn't know I had that. Okay. Sorry. Hold on, chat. Okay. So that's all said and done. This can go. Now to actually get cozy. Good. Very good. Good, good, good. What do I want to read? I'll start with something from America for once. Let's see. We'll do something from New England. I'll pick it random. Let's do The Telltale Seaweed. Oh wait, no, we've read this. We've read this. I recognize it. I, Let's do... Let's do the witch sheep. Witch sheep, sorry. From Narragansett, Rhode Island. Old Benny Nichols lay abed on Christmas morning in the year of 1811, unable to sleep. The room was gray with the pre-dawn light, and Benny tossed and turned, wondering why he couldn't sleep. Much to his resentment, his wife Debbie never stirred. Finally, Benny lit a candle and went to look at the clock on the fireplace mantel. The hands pointed to 9 o'clock. Shivering with cold, Benny stared at it incredulously and then went to the window. At once he saw a huge fall of snow had covered the window, thus producing the illusion of night. "Debbie," he shouted to his wife. "Debbie, it's 9 o'clock and we've just had the worst snowstorm I've ever seen. Debbie, my new sheep will be drowned for sure." Debbie sprang out of bed just as the old mantel clock struck 9, and hurried down to start breakfast. Old Benny followed at her heels. Benny was the shepherd for a large Narragansett farm. Narragansett farm, and he knew full well the dangers of such a blizzard. He'd once tried to rescue a large flock of sheep that were cringing and hiding themselves one behind another near the open shore. In their frantic efforts to shelter from the fierce beating of the storm, they inadvertently backed themselves into the sea. Most of the flock were lost, despite Benny's most valiant efforts. Benny was all for digging himself out of the house immediately, but Debbie made him put on some clothes, and she even forced him to wear his Sunday long boots. Benny put up a bit of a struggle about the boots, him being a prudent man and wanting to get another 10 years' wear out of them. But Debbie wouldn't let him out of the doors without those boots, so he gave in. Benny quickly dug a path upward, toward the snow until he reached the surface. There he saw at once that the wind had blown the snow away from the water, so that none of the flock would have been drowned. He set off over the deep snow, looking for his flock. He noticed a suspicious-looking drift by one of the hayricks, and had soon dug out the sheep buried beneath it. This accounted for about half the flock. Searching further, he found the remainder buried inside a high stone wall. By lunchtime, Benny had rescued all but one of the flock. A pretty little creeper ewe, who was the most valued of them all. Benny was upset that he'd lost his ewe, though justly proud that he'd managed to rescue his flock. Many others had lost most of their livestock, and some of their lives in the unexpected blizzard. Still, Benny repeatedly told Debbie that he might have found the ewe if he hadn't slept so late on Christmas morning. "I wouldn't have minded spoiling my Sunday boots if I'd found the creeper, Debbie," he said mournfully. It was 3 weeks later, when he was checking a hayrick about a mile from his home, that Benny saw a breathing hole in the snow by the rick. He knew at once a living animal must be trapped under the snow, so he broke away the crust and ice. It was a poor, starving creature that looked so unlike a sheep it took Benny a moment to recognize the creeper ewe. In her desperation to survive, the hungry creeper had eaten every blessed fiber of her wool within reach of her mouth. She lay bare and trembling in the snow, gazing up at Benny, too weak to bleat. Benny wrapped her gently in his cloak and took her home to Debbie. Debbie worked over the poor creeper for hours, offering her small amounts of warm milk until the ewe was able to digest ordinary food. In a week, the little ewe had regained her health and was poking her little black muzzle everywhere it didn't belong, much to Debbie's chagrin. but they couldn't put her out in the snow while she was shorn. So Debbie decided to make her a false fleece that would keep her warm until spring. Debbie took an old blue coat that used to belong to her son and cut the sleeves to the right length to fit the front legs of the little ewe, whom she'd named Nanny. At the waist of the blue coat, she attached 2 sleeves from an old red flannel shirt. Debbie pulled the jacket up over Nanny's little legs and buttoned the large brass buttons along her back. Nanny was quite taken with her new garb and pranced around the house looking like an overgrown organ grinder's monkey. When old Benny carried her out into the fenced-in yard where the flock were gathered, Nanny gave a delighted bleat and wriggled out of his arms, eager to be among her companions again. To a sheep, the rest of the flock bolted around and around the yard, crowding against the fence, running from side to side and bleating in terror at the sight of the terrible beast trotting among them. They created such a ruckus that Benny was forced to capture Nanny and carry the reluctant ewe back to the house. As night fell, Benny took Nanny out to the yard, hoping that in the dim light the other sheep would grow used to her jacket and allow her to graze with them. Then he hurried back inside, just in time to greet his 2 oldest friends who had come for a visit. The 3 old men sat by the large fireplace, nursing drinks and watching fire crackle, as Debbie rubbed and rubbed tallow into the poor, abused Sunday long boots. They were all startled by a sudden, terrible wailing, and the door to the kitchen was thrust open by Tuggy Bannox, who stumbled in and dropped breathlessly into a chair near the fire. Rocking back and forth, Tuggy cried hysterically, "Thanks be to God! Thanks be to God!" Tuggy Bannox was a freed slave who lived on a small farm near the Petaquamscut River. She and Debbie made soap together every year, and the combination of Tuggy's strong arms and her voodoo spells always caused Debbie's soap to turn out exactly right. Tuggy occasionally bought wool from old Benny in the winter months, so her visit to the farm was no surprise, though the Nicholses and their guests couldn't understand what caused her distress. "Tuggy!" Debbie cried, rushing to the old woman, pulling off her mittens and rubbing the thin hands with her own. Benny hurried to close the door against the cold, wondering how he could help. Then he remembered his mother repeating the old adage that burned feathers were supposed to revive a faint. He thrust the turkey feather duster into the fire and stuck the smoking mess under Tuggy's nose. Acrid smoke filled the room, and everyone began coughing and choking until Debbie grabbed the duster away from Benny and doused it with water. "Heaven have mercy, I ain't dead yet, Benny Nichols," gasped Tuggy. "But," she added in a fainter voice, "I expect I soon will be." She eyed the mugs of beer on the table. Benny rushed to get her one, adding a dash of Jamaican rum and heating the whole thing with a red-hot loggerhead. Tuggy accepted the drink with alacrity, and when she finished it, she was ready to tell her story. "Well, I told you a few weeks back, Miss Nichols. I'm being witch-tried by old Mum Amy. See, I was just trying to work a charm on her at first. Not to hurt her, of course. I just wanted to bother her a bit. Well, I had the spell boiling away in the kettle when she walks without knocking and asks me what I'm cooking. I don't want her to know I'm cooking up a spell to put on her, so I says I'm making glue, and I takes the pot off the fire. Of course, now my spell's ruined, and Mum Amy knows it. And every day, since that day, I've been witchered." Tuggy paused, waiting for a response from her audience. Benny and his old cronies nodded solemnly, and Debbie gave a horrified gasp. Satisfied, Tuggy pointed dramatically to her mouth. "See these marks on the corner of me mouth?" she said. Debbie nodded eagerly, hanging on her every word. "Them's marks on account of Mum Amy's been riding me in my sleep all over Ridge Hill and Boston Neck. I wake up so tired most mornings I can hardly work, and I've been pinched in the night, my hair's been pulled. Even me butter won't come right lest I drop a hot horseshoe into the cream and to drive Mum Amy out of it. So I decides to lay a trap for her, to see if she's really a witch. I watch for Mum Amy till she wakes up toward me down the road, and then I drops a silver 6-piece in her path. Well, Miss Nichols, before she gets to it, Mum Amy turns and goes back the way she came. Proof enough, I says. 'Cause everyone knows a witch can't step over silver. No, indeed, Debbie said, and the men nodded in agreement. Well, Benny Nichols, Tuggy cried, flinging her free arm wide, I just seen that old witch Mum Amy a-riding and a-chasing your sheep out there in the moonlight. And as sure as you're born, you'll find 'em all dead come the morning. Benny was thunderstruck. He wanted to run out and save his sheep, but he was too superstitious to face a witch like Mum Amy. What'd she look like, Tuggy? Debbie asked in a whisper. What was she doing out there? Well, Miss Nichols, witches don't ever take their true form when they go out on a witch's Sabbath. Mum Amy was long and low to the ground, sort of like a snake. She was running and a-springing and a-chasing them poor sheep all over around the yard. They was in quite a panic. She was wearing her old red and blue Injun blanket, and that's how I knowed her. And she'd sparkling gold dollars all down her back, and the wages of the devil for sure. And she was lashing her long black tail as if she was the devil herself. It sounds just like the devil, cried Debbie excitedly. Or maybe the creeper. Benny struck his forehead with his palm and burst out laughing. He'd forgotten about little Nanny and her brightly colored jacket. Gasping with merriment, he explained to the cronies that the witch was really his creeper sheep in her false fleece. He offered to go alone to face the devil in the field and bring her to prove it. Tuggy was insulted. She jumped up and shook her fist angrily at Benny, ignoring Debbie's placating remarks that Benny was probably wrong. It was Mum Amy out in the field. Then Tuggy stopped her ranting, and a malicious smile lit up her face. She shook Debbie's hand off her sleeve, gathered her mittens, and marched to the door. They could hear her muttering to herself as she stomped away. Best to stop such outrageous goings-on right now, dressing sheep up like they was a witch and scaring a poor old woman. But Tuggy Bannocks know how to stir up a spell or two so's they won't laugh like witches no more. Benny Nichols, now look what you've done, Debbie said severely. Benny just laughed at Tuggy's threats. But as the days passed, Debbie and Benny knew that Tuggy really had witched them. Their cakes and roasts were always burned, no matter how carefully they were tended, and the chimney spat smoke and soot at them. And they could hear Tuggy dancing on the roof and shouting down the chimney at them when the wind grew wild. She even bespelled the old ram, who never grew accustomed to Nanny's new outfit, though the other sheep accepted her. The old ram grew thin and faded, and Benny was afraid he would lose the ram altogether. He and Debbie went so far as to purchase a few charms for Mum Amy. Nothing seemed to work. Finally, after all the sheep were sheared, and Nanny was released from her coat, the ram ceased to be witchwood, and with the last false fleece discarded, Tuggy's spell was worked out at last. For years afterward, people around the Narragansett liked to tell the story of Tuggy Bannocks and the false fleece. Nanny and her descendants became famous from Point Judith to Patawamat, and all the creepers sold throughout Narragansett ever after went by the name of witch sheep. Aw. All the trouble just to get a poor sheep a coat. Looks that way. Let's continue. Here's from another book. This one apparently has just 51 random stories. Let's see. This one is called Vicarious. Oh, no, it's not. This one seems lame. Actually, a lot of these seem kind of lame. Gonna skip this. Let's see. Sorry, chat. I'm just looking. I'm just looking. Here. Go with police. We'll do... Let's do the girl in the water. It was a freezing cold November night in New Hampshire, out on the countryside, where the houses thin out amongst the lakes and forests. The darkness and cold there aren't like that in the cities. It's a lethal, impenetrable barrier to anyone unprepared to face the conditions. Many have perished when they've underestimated its power. The police received a call about a little girl who'd been seen wandering around on her own near one of the lakes. Did my internet die? Oh yeah, my internet died. I'm not dropping frames. I guess it's just my laptop then. That's a small problem. Oh well. Oh, there we go. Okay. The police received a call about a little girl who'd been seen wandering around on her own near one of the lakes. This was a serious problem, considering the weather was dangerously cold, and a child near the water could fall in and drown without anyone finding her again. The lakes around those parts were deep and dark, and once something sunk, there was a slim chance it would ever be seen by the light of day again. Every available officer in the area responded out there. 2 officers who had children of their own and wanted to ensure the girl was found were the first on the scene. They got to the lake after a long, dark drive. The weather had been threatening snow for a couple days. They were hoping it'd hold off until after they finished the search. When they arrived, they reported to dispatch and began looking for the girl. There weren't many houses around the lake, and it was pitch black, causing them to be leery as they picked their way through the undergrowth and marshy areas beside the lake. Eventually, they got to a dirt beach, with a little clearing where the wind moved the water frequently enough to stop anything taking root there. They searched the area, checking any hollows or dark spots the girl could be hiding, but they found nothing. As they searched, they discussed what a little girl could be doing out in there in the middle of a winter's night. Could she have gotten lost? Possibly separating from her family somehow on a walk? Or maybe she was a runaway, though no one reported missing a child. They were finishing up on their search of the beach when the lead officer's partner tapped him on the shoulder and pointed to the water. The officer looked there in the water, and there was the little girl. Why is there no internet? Oh, there we go. Later, when he was telling the story to other officers who arrived, he told them that when he saw her, all the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. She was standing in about an ankle-deep water and was wearing an old-fashioned white nightgown that sat just above the surface of the water. The two officers turned to look at each other, knowing something wasn't right about the situation. They radioed dispatch, saying they'd found the girl, and then approached closer. She didn't respond to their movements, so the lead officer knelt down near the edge of the water and held out his arms to her, like he would his own daughter. "I'm a policeman. Come out of the water, honey. It's not safe in there," he said, beckoning for her to come to him. The girl turned to the officers, her eyes oddly vacant, and she started to walk toward the officer. As she did so, another patrol car arrived near the scene, and the officers headed to the beach to see her walking toward the officer. She just got out. She just got outside of arm's reach of the officer, and then just vanished, from one moment to the next. All that remained was a series of small footprints in the mud near him. 4 officers from different angles all saw this happen. None of them can explain what happened, but 2 years later there was a similar circumstance in which a little girl in a white nightgown was seen at the lake. She vanished as well. Now legend is a little girl haunts the lake. What she wants or why she's there is unknown to all. Alright. I know I haven't been on long, but I think I'll keep to the short stories because I don't know how much I have left in me. I'm tired and my belly doesn't feel all that great, but hopefully I'll be on the mend soon. But I will read to y'all for as long as I can, even if it's just on the VOD. Alright. Let's see. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Da 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 da. Let's do some from China. Alright. This one's called Monkeys Fishing the Moon. A long time ago, there lived in a forest a kingdom of monkeys. There were several hundred of them altogether. They lived a harmonious and uneventful life for generations. At the edge of the forest there was a pond. It was neither deep nor shallow. The trees that stretched their limbs far over the pond above the water served as a perfect jumping board for the overactive monkeys, for diving was their most favorite sport. Under the summer sun, they would climb up to the extended branches and inch out as far over the pond as they dared. Then, they would splash into the water, one after another, in various styles. This pastime not only helped them cool off in the summer heat, but it also provided them with an opportunity to display their courage and their acrobatic talents. When night fell, the monkeys would shun the pond and hide themselves in the trees in the forest. They all knew that the pond was also a source of drinking water for many nocturnal animals, including beasts of prey. Moonlit evenings were the exception, especially when the moon was big, round, and bright. Beasts of prey, fearing human hunters, would seldom linger at the pond after they quickly quenched their thirst. Unfortunately, the moon became this big and bright only once a year. Nonetheless, the young monkeys, particularly those who were extremely hyper and daring, claimed the moonlit pond as paradise. They ventured out of the forest to continue their diving contest. Normally, the monkeys would turn a blind eye to the surface of the water while they were playing. Their only concern was whether or not it was safe around them. One time, however, a young monkey who had been out in the brightest moonlit night for the first time found something that startled everybody. "Look!" shrieked the young monkey as the party reached the pond. "The moon has fallen into the water!" The sight of a big, round, bright moon laying on the surface of the pond stunned all of the monkeys, as it was the first time they had seen such a phenomenon. "What shall we do?" asked another young monkey. The news that the moon had fallen into the pond quickly spread to the Monkey King and other elders who were ready to go to bed in the forest. They rushed to the scene and were also astounded to see the moon lounging on the surface of the water. They had come out to play in the brightest moonlight many, many times when they were young, but they had never paid any attention to where the moon was, taking for granted that it was high above in the evening sky. They scratched their heads and buttocks, not knowing what to do. A moment later, one of the elders, who thought of himself as the smartest of all creatures, had an idea and suggested it to the king. "Let's fish the moon out of the pond." "But how?" the king said. After a brief silence, one of the hyper young monkeys jumped up to the king. "I got it! I got it!" When he told the king the idea, the king broke into a smile and patted him on the back in appreciation, saying, "You really are the smartest of all monkeys." He then made the young monkey leader put his idea into practice. The young leader asked a robust young monkey to climb up to a limb of the tree that reached the farthest over the pond and told him, "Grasp the limb tightly with your feet. You are a key link to the chain we are going to form. If you fail, all will. Do you think you're up to the task?" "Yes, sir," the young monkey answered in resolution. He climbed up nimbly up the tree, maneuvered cautiously closer to the tip of the limb, and hung himself upside down, his feet grasping the limb firmly. The young leader then ordered another young monkey to join the monkey hanging from the limb and asked him to hold the first monkey's hands with his feet. The first monkey gripped the new arrival's feet securely, remembering what the leader had said about his key role in the monkey link they were forming. The leader ordered other monkeys to do the same, one by one, until the last monkey's hands almost reached the water. He then mounted the tree himself and carefully clambered down the chain to reach the last monkey at its end. His feet locked steadfastly into the hands of the monkey above him. The monkey leader could... The monkey leader could stretch his hands into the water. He tried to fish the moon out, but each time he did, the moon would break into pieces. He waited until the moon came together again before he made another attempt. As he struggled, amid the cheers of the monkeys on the bank, the chain of monkeys swayed and swung with each of his movements. The monkey chain was swinging when all of a sudden the limb of the tree cracked. All the monkeys splashed into the pond. As the bedraggled monkeys climbed up to shore, one of them happened to raise his head and could not help shouting, "Look! The moon is still up in the sky!" That wasn't spooky, but it was funny. That was funny. I appreciated that. This next one is called An Observant Fox Spirit. Or not. Where is it? Oh. Hold on, this book is confusing. There we go. We were taught that the wicked could never subjugate, and that they were afraid of the upright. A phony who could easily fool an ordinary dolt could not defraud heaven, ghosts, or any of the otherworldly creatures. Mr. Liu, who was an educated man, noticed the fox spirit was occupying the attic of his study room. The invisible creature that often threw shingles and stones at bystanders began to irritate residents. The popular mayor, learning this incident, was pretty excited. Oh wait, no, we've done this one. I recognize this one. Okay. Hold on. Let me spin again. Let's do... Let's do Chung's Fighting Cricket. 217. Here we go. One autumn day, as soon as they finished their lessons with Scholar Shu in the Court of Learning, Ah Sung and his cousins hurried along the paths to the Garden of Sweet Smells. The boys ran on tiptoe, and no one said a word, lest he should frighten the little brown crickets, for which they meant to hunt. Over there! Over there! Ah Sung whispered, as a faint chirping was heard upon the little rock mountain in the midst of the garden. The boy poked with a twig among the stones that had been laid up to make a tiny hill. A dark brown insect ran out, and, quick as a flash, Ah Sung held before it a small trap of woven bamboo. I have him, and he's a big one," he called to his cousins. The other boys gathered around and peered into the trap. "He's as big as the one I caught yesterday," one of Ah Sung's cousins cried. "Now we can fight them." "Fu says we should wait until they've been in their cages a few days," said Ah Sung. "And Fu knows all about cricket fights. He's seen great battles in the city, and he's won money there by betting as to which cricket would win." Fu, the number one servant, was a good friend of all the children inside the red gate of the Lings. He had himself made the bamboo cricket traps for the boys, and had told them where to look for the special kind of crickets that fight. He even got them some grains of rice and bits of green lettuce to feed their tiny prisoners. There was excitement among the children and amusement among the grown-ups as the boys made their plans for their cricket fight. Their father showed them how to tie stiff hairs to the ends of small bamboo sticks. They explained how these were used to tickle the wee warriors until they were angry enough to strike out. Wang Lai, the nurse, brought the boys a round wooden bowl, upon whose rough bottom the cricket's feet would not slip inside. The old one had the place of honor at the stone table in the garden, on which the fighting bowl was set down. Since the autumn day was cool, she was wearing a jacket lined with light fur, and the children were warm in suits well padded with cotton. All the members of the family gathered to watch the great fight. Even men laid aside their books and their writing brushes and left their library on the courtyard of politeness to give advice to their small sons as how to best manage their crickets. Ah Sung and his cousin opened the door to their cricket traps and shook their tiny fighters gently out into the bowl. Each brown cricket was only about an inch long. At first they stood still, as if they didn't know what to do. Then the boys tickled their feelers with the stiff hairs on the ends of their bamboo sticks. The crickets grew cross. They rubbed their front wings together, making angry chirping noises. Then they dashed into the fight. They rushed at each other. They locked their tusks together. Over and over they rolled in the bottom of the wooden bowl, while the spectators cheered. What a shout there was when Ah Sung's cricket pushed the other brown fighter over upon his back so that he could not get up. The boy clapped his hands and cried, "Mine wins! Mine wins!" "Ah, but my cricket's not through yet," Ah Sung's cousin declared. "Give him time to rest, and he will yet beat." "It is not for nothing that we say men are as brave as a cricket," said Grandmother Ling. "A cricket will fight so long as he has breath. So while we wait for these two to rest up for their next battle, I will tell you a story about the marvelous cricket, which brought fame and fortune to a poor man named Chung, who lived in a small village. This all took place long ago, when the cricket fighting was even more loved by men than it is today. The emperor, who then sat upon the dragon throne, so enjoyed seeing battles between these fighting insects that he demanded, as taxes, crickets, instead of money or rice. One year, the governor of a certain district sent a present to the Son of Heaven, a splendid fighting cricket. So bravely did it battle against all its enemies that the emperor was delighted, and he commanded this governor to send each autumn many others just like it. Now the governor could not fulfill the emperor's order himself, and so in his turn he commanded the head of each little village to get crickets for him. 'Twas one of these villages. The head man was this Chung. He was a poor man, who tried many times to pass the examinations for a better office, but who always had failed. When he received the governor's order for fine fighting cricket, he wrung his hands sadly. "I might as well throw myself in the river," he cried to his wife. "The rich men from the city pay for such high prices for crickets that it would take all we have inside our gate to buy even one from the cricket hunters." "Well, then you best go out and catch one yourself," Chung's wife replied. Poor Chung took a bamboo tube and a little trap like Ah Shung's, and went out into the grave mounds, where crickets were most likely to be. He poked about under the stones. He looked under bushes. He peered into every little hole he saw in the ground. But when he returned to his home, the 3 puny creatures inside his bamboo tube were so weak that when the governor saw them, he ordered poor Chung to be given 100 blows of the bamboo rod, as he commanded him to bring a really good fighting cricket before the moon ended. Poor Chung's back was so sore that he could not spend long hours searching for a cricket. His wife thought and thought as to how she could help him. At last she gathered together a few pennies and went out to seek the new fortune-teller who had lately come to the village. When she returned to her home, she bore in her hand a piece of white paper, upon which there was drawn a picture of a hill behind the temple. At the foot of this hill there were shown a heap of stones and a hopping toad. "Ayah, my husband," she wailed. "I've thrown our money away. The only thing I got in return for this is the silly picture with the fortune-teller made with his hairpin." "Not so silly as you think," said Chung when he saw the paper. "No doubt this is telling me where I ought to find a fine cricket. The temple is the very one to the east of our village. I shall go there at once." Chung left his bed and hobbled to the hill behind the old temple. Beside the pile of stones, which the drawing had shown, he took a seat, and he watched and watched for the cricket to appear. I might as well be looking for a mustard seed," he said to himself, for no little brown insect could he find among the stones. But just then, out of the bushes came a fat toad. Chung rose from his seat and followed the creature as it hopped under a bush. When the man drew back the branches, he saw on the ground a cricket so splendid that his heart jumped for joy. After a little trouble, he captured it and put it gently inside his tube of bamboo. How the Chung family nursed that cricket. They fed it on chestnuts and meat. They brought it water clear as a crystal from the faraway spring, and they tended it carefully against the time when the governor should send a messenger for it. But Chung had a small son, about the age of Ah Sung. And one day, my children, when his mother came away washing clothes in the stream, the naughty boy uncovered the bowl in which the precious cricket was kept. With a mighty spring, the insect leaped out of his prison. The boy ran after it. Try as he could not catch it, and the insect escaped. When Chung came home that evening, he flew into a fury when he heard the cricket was gone. He called for his son, but no trace of the child could be found. They searched and they searched, and at last they discovered his body at the bottom of a deep well. They thought at first he was drowned. Later they saw he still breathed, although they could not rouse him out of his slumber. The father thought more about his lost cricket than the sleeping boy. All through the night he sat gazing at the empty bowl. The sun was just lighting the sky when suddenly he heard the faint chirp of a cricket just outside the house door. Chung first thought the insect might be his own splendid lost cricket, but he saw soon that it was a smaller one, of a poor reddish-brown color. He was about to let the cricket go when suddenly it hopped up on his sleeve. After all, it is a handsome little fellow, he said, and he decided to keep it. We'll just try it out, even though it's small, he thought. And so he arranged for a fight with a neighbor whose crickets were noted for winning in the village cricket fights. The neighbor laughed when he saw Chung's small red-brown insect. He showed him how much bigger and stronger his dark brown fighters looked, and he scoffed so loudly that poor Chung was ready to give up the fight. We may as well have some amusement, Chung said. Let us fight just the same, and if my cricket's wounded, it'll be no great matter. So they put the two crickets in a fighting bowl. Chung's cricket lay quite still. It was not until it had been tickled and tickled with the pig's hair that it even moved. Oh, but you should have seen that little red-brown cricket. It gave one mighty leap and attacked the other cricket so bravely and fiercely that the larger cricket would have been killed if the fight had not been stopped. The little brown cricket stood up on its hind legs and chirped with joy at its splendid victory. Chung was about to pick up his cricket when a rooster walked over to the bowl. It started to snap the cricket up in its beak, while the tiny little fighter leaped onto his comb and held tight with his tusks, while the rooster squawked with pain. Joy filled the heart of Chung, and he put his cricket away in the cage of bamboo and took it to the governor. That important person was not at all pleased with the sight of such a small red-brown cricket, and when Chung told him of the bravery of his little fighter, he would not believe him. Not until it had beaten all of the fighting crickets in the governor's palace was he convinced that this cricket of Chung's was fit to send to the emperor. The governor put Chung's cricket in a cage made of ivory and jade, and took it himself to the dragon throne. Never had there been such a fighter at the emperor's court. A cricket that could beat enemies 3 times its size. A wee insect that could get the best of a rooster. It was found that Chung's cricket even would dance when music was played. So, of course, it had a place of honor in the emperor's palace. In return for his gift, the governor received from the emperor magnificent presents of horses and silks. And, in turn, he rewarded Chung, from whom the marvelous cricket had come. He persuaded the judge to pass Chung in his next examination, and he gave him a much better position than that of headman of the village. And best of all, in a short time, Chung's son, who had been sleeping many a day, opened his eyes. Where am I? Were the first words the boy spoke. I must have been dreaming. I thought the gods turned me into a cricket, and that I fought a great fight here in our village. It seemed to me that I even conquered a rooster. Then I went to a faraway place where I fought other crickets, where I lived in a cage of ivory and jade. The boy's father knew then that the Emperor of Heaven had sent his son's spirit into the little brown cricket in order to save him from death. Chung did not forget to give thanks for the return of his son's soul, nor for the good luck that each passing year brought. In a short time he grew rich. He had houses and fields. He became the most important person in his neighborhood. All because of a little red-brown cricket, even smaller than these in our fighting bowl. And that's that. I think I have one more story left in me. And then I think I'll rest. Sorry that this one is a short one, guys. I think I sold out. Yeah, I did. Oh, whoops. Hold on. I went to the wrong place. Here we go. We'll do... Hold on, I'm thinking. Alright. We'll end it on something from here. This is a book literally called Great Horror Stories. Just gonna turn to a random page. Oh my god, the text is so small. Oh yeah, no, screw this. Hold on. Rerolling. Okay. This one is called The Night Call by Henry Van Dyke. Wait, I should check how long this is. Oh, this is quite long. Never mind. I'm just looking for a short little... Oh, fuck it. Maybe we'll just stay in China. Here. I'll try one more book. Failed to load the PDF document. Your mother failed to load the PDF document. Oh, that's a problem. Okay. Guess we're not doing that one. Fuck. Alright, let's try this. Sorry, chat. I know this isn't the best episode of this, but I'm doing my best. Let's see. Yeah, we'll go to British Columbia. Okay. Let's try... a warm, wonderful feeling. Oh, actually no, this one looks sad. God damn it. I'm sorry, chat. I will pick one. Alright. Here, this one looks lighthearted. Let's do A Frog in a Well. This is from China. A frog lived in an abandoned well all his life. Little bugs, small fish, and tiny shrimps were his only companions. Everything in the well, the water, the mud, the cylindrical brick wall, and the moss on it, were all he knew about the world. He had no idea what the real world looked like. One day, a big sea turtle wandered near the well and caught the attention of the frog, who happened to look up to enjoy the little circular blue sky. The frog would not let this opportunity to brag about his knowledge of the world pass. Look how happy I am. I know everything about the world. The bugs that can walk on the surface of the water, in the well, the little fish that swim beneath them, and the tiny shrimps that eat the dirt at the bottom. The frog rumbled along, not giving a turtle the chance to speak. He continued, I'm living the happiest life in the world. When I'm in a good mood, I jump up and down on the well shaft. When I'm tired, I lay down on the brick sticking out from the wall. When I'm hungry, I just catch the little fish, shrimps, and bugs. The thing I enjoy the most, is to swim beneath the water, raising my mouth out of the water to breathe from time to time. Sometimes I even take a deep breath and dive to the bottom to take a walk on the soft sand and... Hey, listen! Have you ever been to the sea? The sea turtle had had enough of the frog's babble and stopped him short. What do you mean, the sea? No, it's got anything to do with the alphabet. It's the sea. S-E-A. The large body of water. The turtle raised his voice and explained patiently. But why do I have to bother, since I have a large body of water here in the well? Asked the frog. Let me tell you what a large body of water is, replied the turtle. You can never imagine how vast the sea is. I don't even know how many times larger the body of water it is in your well. Let me put it this way. 10 years of flood and another 8 years of drought would have little impact on the level of the sea waters. Living in a body of water like that will give you a real sense of happiness. His big mouth wide open, the frog was at a loss for words. Knowing there was a much larger world outside his well, the frog never bragged again. His descendants simply moved out of the well. However, unable to find the big sea they had been told about, they settled in farmers' rice fields, above which the sky was as extensive as their big raised eyes could see. That one was cute. I'm tired. And I think I'm gonna rest up. And probably take some more meds. But I should be feeling better tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to do Cthulhu then. But in the meantime, do not eat or drink any questionable substances. Make smart decisions. Do not die. Dying is absolutely forbidden, and I will see all. And be wonderful people. At a later time. Take care, guys.